Welcome back. When I was playing the lower rated bots before, a week or two ago, I skipped a couple because they were listed in a different section on the bot list. One of those was CodeMiko from the United States, rated 600. I'm going to go ahead and play against this bot. I assume that's named after a person but I haven't heard of them. So anyway, hopefully I can beat this bot as well. Let's see what happens. All right, and I'm clicking random. Oh, I got the black pieces this time. And you can see my current rapid rating right here for those of you who are curious or have been following along. Okay, this is the Larsen attack, or this calls it the Nimzowitz Larsen attack. I believe it can develop into the hippo. I don't remember if e4, d4 is best here, but I'm going to play that and try to get some center space. I'm curious as to why there was no bishop to b2. I think that's what usually happens here. And since there has been no immediate attack on this pawn, I don't need to defend it at this point. I'm wondering if I shouldn't just go ahead and play some sort of modified Scandinavian at this point. But I think it's probably best to go ahead and develop my pieces. I'm going to get this knight out, and I think if the bishop moves here, I will get my other knight out to defend that pawn. Or maybe I will defend it with a d pawn, although that would block my dark squared bishop. Maybe I should get my dark squared bishop out first. For example, to here. I don't know. Okay, the queen has moved fairly early. I'm not sure why. Now I will get out my knight to f6 in preparation for castling. I don't think that does anything. I'm going to castle since I was allowed to. That certainly doesn't do anything except threaten this bishop, which I can now just put right here, I think. Or I could defend it with this pawn, which I was about to play anyway. But I think if I do that, then CodeMiko can push this pawn and my bishop will be getting close to being trapped, which I don't want. So I think I'm going to pull... Wait, if I pull the bishop back, then they can just push this pawn, right? That's a good question. I could also defend it with this pawn. I don't know. Maybe I should pull it back to here. I'll just do that to save the bishop. Okay. I also briefly thought about an attack down here with that bishop, and then if the king took, I would have had this attack, but I don't now. I thought about that for a second. Okay. Well, now it makes sense to do something about that queen. For example, a6, or even d6, preparing to bring this bishop out. Oh, you know what? I just realized I have left this pawn undefended. I don't know why the bot didn't take it on its past turn. That was a mistake on my part, clearly. So let's defend that pawn. Okay. Well, now I can bring the knight out, which I kind of wanted to do anyway. Okay. I don't know if this is the bot's first mistake, but it clearly was. So we have won the queen for free right here at the beginning of this game. And we have developed almost all of our pieces already. So I think we can start making a crack at the center here, although I think we can play I think we can play c6 first to give an extra layer of defense here. That I'm not worried about hitting my bishop because my queen is guarding my bishop. So if I move this pawn and they take, I will win the bishop, and I will still have multiple pieces guarding the d5 square. Okay, it did not take my bishop, so I will take CodeMiko's bishop. Since I am up a queen, I feel very confident trading minor pieces. And I'm going to take this pawn, which I realize now I could have done last turn. That's a weird move because this bishop is already out. Are they intending to go back around this way to fianchetto? I don't know. I do know that I'm going to put my queen right here, threatening the rook. Just because the bots sometimes do not see threats like that. So I'm going to do that. Oh, I did see the threat. Okay, well, good. That's fine. I don't mind having my queen here anyway, so what should I do next? I think I should get this knight out of in front of my pawns so I can start advancing my pawns. I'm going to pull my knight back here. I have learned, it's taken me a while and I'm still figuring this out, but I've learned that the queen often is better placed behind pieces. Closer toward the end of the middle game, it's good to have the queen in the center if it's safe, but I like my queen to be behind the pieces most of the time. This is attacking an undefended pawn, which is fine because I was about to move that pawn anyway. If I do move the pawn, let's see, they can get this piece in here or even into that space, because it's not just the pawn that, this is another thing I've been learning recently over the past few months. It's not just the pawn that's undefended, it's the space. That square, e5, is undefended. So even if I move the pawn, the knight can still go there because it's the square that's undefended. So maybe I should defend the square and then push the pawn like this. Okay, castles. But because of that g3 push earlier, we know that this has weakened some of the light squares around that king that this pawn would normally protect from g2. And with the no bishop being there and pushing this pawn didn't make any sense. But it happened, so I want to keep an eye out for that. In fact, makes me wonder if I shouldn't have done this on the previous turn to prevent castling. But now I can do that. Anyway, not only is it a threat on the rook, but it's locking down this square. So I'm going to do that. The rook did not move, so I'm going to take it. Okay, then I'm going to take this piece. And okay, this bot cannot see my light squared bishop apparently. So we're just going to mop up all the pieces with the light squared bishop. I'm half tempted to take this pawn to see if the knight will capture. The knight did not capture. Okay. And well then, okay, this has come after my pawn, my knight. Oh, and my knight is trapped. Nice. Okay. Well, good job, CodeMiko, for trapping my knight. I think I'm going to let the knight go, and I'm going to move this knight, which will open up this diagonal for my queen. So if they take here, I will get their rook. But where should this knight go? Oh, I'm also left my bishop hanging. That's not good. Well, let's pull the bishop back, and then we'll move our knight. And there's nothing I can do about that one either anyway. Oh, okay, they've moved the rook instead. Well, now let's go here. Take that knight. Okay, it finally took that knight, which I couldn't do anything about anyway. And then since they didn't take this knight, let's bring it back. And then we're going to head this way, I think, in order to open up some attack on the king over here. That I'm not really worried about because right now my queen is guarding it. So let's put the knight on h4. This prevents the king from coming out. And of course the pawn won't move forward, right, or shouldn't move forward. I'm going to go ahead and put another attacker on the g2 square. And then I can prepare to bring my queen this way, I think. Okay, that's good. I think that's fine. It's attacking my knight. But, you know what? I can move this pawn and defend that knight. I can also move this pawn to block the rook's path to the knight. I like that. All right. And if I take that with en passant, then the rook gets my knight. All right. But now I can check. I think I'm going to do that. Check. And my knight is protected by this pawn. And now it's also protected by this pawn. Because if they take, I take. All right, and now we're going to check right here. The king is running out of squares. Let's see. What is the fastest way to get to that king? I think I need to pull my bishop somewhere like here and then win this pawn maybe. Okay, again, not worried about that. My rooks are still pretty solid back here, so I'm going to take this pawn and then come around this way. I think that's mate. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the king is trapped. This square is guarded by my knight. That square is guarded by my knight. And then my queen will be hitting all these squares, so that should be mate. Okay, good job me beating CodeMiko, rated 600. I'm going to run the game review and see how badly or well I did. Okay, the game analysis quick review says that I did pretty well, 88.2%, and if we scroll down here you can see that I did make one mistake, but no blunders or missed wins, and just a couple of inaccuracies. I'm going to click Start Review just to see what the game review says those were. Okay, those were book moves apparently. It says I've played this opening 59 times. Again, I doubt that, and then with a 73% win rate, yeah, I don't think so. But, okay, it was a mistake to pull the bishop back. Okay. I still had a commanding lead at that point, but there was something better that I could have done. And the question is what? I probably should have just taken that pawn, right? Or is this where I should have attacked f2? Because I wondered about that. I did realize that once the queen moved and I pulled my bishop back, I realized that my opponent had left their e4 pawn undefended. And I also realized that moving this pawn, bishop left my e5 pawn undefended from the queen. So I did wonder about that move. I just wanted to save my bishop, and I wasn't sure what else to do. So taking this pawn would defend my bishop, but then could get my knight in danger with just a simple pawn move. So I don't think it was taking the pawn, right? Because if I took this, they moved their pawn forward, and then I dropped my knight back, then my bishop is hanging. So maybe it was f7, or f2 I mean. Bishop captures f2 now. I'd have to be really lucky for that to have been the best move. I'm going to guess it says that's a blunder. Is that what it's going to say? Well, it's taking its time thinking about it. We'll wait on it. Okay, I had to pause because it took quite some time for the engine to tell me that that also was a mistake and about just as bad as what I did, which was pull this back. So I'm just going to click the hint button and see it was the knight taking the pawn. Okay, it says that wins a free pawn, and it would have given me a -5 advantage. I'm not sure about that because I wonder about the pawn move here. Yeah, I'm still skeptical of that. It says show moves. Oh, it says they wouldn't have moved that pawn forward. I'm pretty sure they would have, but maybe not. I really don't know what they would have done there. But that's what it says would have happened had I placed my knight there, winning that pawn. I'm pretty sure most of my opponents would have played the d pawn at that point to threaten my knight. I don't know for a fact, but that's what I assume would have happened. My next, okay, that was inaccurate. Protecting this pawn. Well, I realized I had left it unprotected, so I thought I had to protect it. What should I have done in this instance? Let's see. Retry. Should I have played a6 instead? It's thinking about that one too. That also took a while. It says that was not accurate either, and it was minus 2.47. So maybe a little bit better. No, even worse than what I had played. Okay, well, I'm going to click the hint button again. Oh, all the way. So I should have played e4 at that point, or e5, sorry, d5. Wow, I just practiced my coordinates yesterday. Okay, I should have played d5, it says. Okay, I see that. That indirectly protects my e5 pawn. And even though they can take, so can I, and my queen is hitting that square, so their queen couldn't take back. I guess that makes sense. It says this blocks an attack on your vulnerable piece. I assume it's talking about my e5 pawn. Okay, I understand that. My next inaccuracy, didn't I have another one? Apparently not. Oh, down there, that was inaccurate. Okay. Oh, should I have just... Would that have been mate right there? I could have skipped a move. Because you saw that I was trying to get my queen in. I hit the pawn and then came over here, but I could have just gone down there. Yeah. Okay. I see it now. I could have saved myself a move. Well, that turns out to be the case in many of my actual games against people. Once I have an advantage and I'm going for the kill, I often don't see the fastest way. I just see a sure way. I checked here. I had checked. If we back up one move, I had checked to make sure that my opponent's move wasn't endangering anything down here, that my rook was guarding this pawn, my rooks are protecting each other, my king's defending that square. And then I thought, these pieces are all safe here. If that pawn tried to attack, I could replace my e-pawn, and then I wanted to get my queen around behind the king, and I went this way and here for mate. But I could have just gone there, and that would have ended it. Okay. Well, we learned something, I think, and we'll move on to the next bot. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.